All right, guys, here is your homework for tonight. Make sure you have a separate piece of paper. We're going to start off by you guys do this problem, but go ahead and pause the video and see if you could get it right. This is just our warm-up for today. All right, so hopefully you pause the video, give your chance to giving your self a chance to do it, and now let's go over how to do this problem. The x is right here, so I'm going to add 4 on both sides to get rid of the 4, because it was minus 4, it was negative 4, so I'm going to add 4 on both sides. I'm going to bring down, but when you bring down, you have to bring down the whole thing, and there's a minus sign or a negative sign in front of the 2x. You bring down a negative 2x, which equals 26. Last step, you're going to divide by negative 2 to get rid of the times negative 2. Or, sorry, cancel it out, and x is going to equal 26 divided by negative 2, which is negative 13. And you could check that by putting a negative 13 back into the x, and it will equal 22. So this is just talking about what we did in class today. Just a reminder, when you have a fraction times a variable, the way that you're going to cancel it out and so that you're left with just x is you have to remember that this is times 2/3. You learned a couple years ago that when you divide by 2/3, what you're really doing is you're multiplying by the reciprocal. So instead of dividing by 2/3, you get the same answer if you multiply by 3/2, which is just the 2/3 flipped, which is called the reciprocal. So anytime you see a 2/3 times or any fraction times a variable, what you can do is you can go ahead and take the entire side and multiply by. So what you're going to do is you're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So if it's 2/3, we're going to multiply by 3/2. That's going to actually, if you multiply those two together, you just get 1 or x, 1x, which is just x. So you've done your job by singling out or getting the x alone. Now, if you multiply by 3/2 on one side, you got to multiply by 3/2 on the other side. So 16, negative 16, we could think of as negative 16/1 times 3/2. So you're going to multiply across. Negative 16 times 3 is negative 48. 2 times 1 is 2. And then you could finally divide. Negative 48 divided by 2 is negative 24. You guys go ahead and try the next two on your own. See if you can solve it. Pause the video, try them, and then replay the video. So hopefully you got a chance to pause the video and do it. For this problem, we would have canceled out the negative 1/4 by multiplying by negative 4/1, the reciprocal of this fraction. That's going to be left with x, and if you multiplied one side by negative 4/1, which is just really multiplying by negative 4, 20 times negative 4 is negative 80, and that's what x equals. Next problem, draw a line through it. Next problem, it was negative 3/4, so the reciprocal of that is negative 4/3. Cancels that out. You're left with x, and 30 times negative 4/3, going to over 1. And now, I didn't do this the last time, but remember, whenever you're multiplying fractions, you can cross-reduce, meaning since 30 and 3, you could divide by 3. You can divide that by 3 and get 10. Divide that 3 by 3 and get 1, and then multiply across, and you get negative 40/1, which is just x equals negative 40. This problem is basically taking what we just learned and relating it to extending it to what we did in class. So here's a two-step equation. So guys, this problem you're going to do just like a two-step equation. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to subtract 6, and go ahead and finish off. Pause the video, finish off this problem for me, see what you can do, and then play it to see if you got it right. So hopefully you got a chance to finish it up. This crosses out. 10 minus 6 is just positive 4. Bring down my equal sign. Bring down my 4/5 x. Now we just talked about to get rid of a fraction, if it's times 4/5, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal in order to get 1x. And if you multiply by 5/4 on one side, we're going to multiply by 5/4 on the other side. And you could cross cancel if you want. I'm going to multiply across. 5 times 4 is 20. 1 times 4 is 4. And 20 divided by 4 is 5. So x equals 5. Next thing we're going to learn is what happens if you're left with negative x equals 15. So first of all, we want to talk to you guys about that if you get negative x equals 15, what that means is the number in the x is not negative. What this means is you have negative 1x. So anytime you see negative x, you could put a 1 in front. So you remember it's negative 1 times x. So in order to solve for x, whenever you're left with negative x or negative 1x, we're going to divide both sides by negative 1 because they're multiplying by negative 1. So that will be left with 1x equals, and then 15 divided by negative 1 is negative 15. Try this one over here. What would happen? What would you get? Go ahead and pause the video and try this one on your own. Okay? So you're left with negative x equals negative 16. So I'm going to put a 1 in front of the x to know that it's negative 1 times x. And I want to be left with just x, so I'm going to divide by negative 1 and divide by negative 1. And this cancels out. I'm left with x, an equal sign, and negative 16 divided by negative 1 is positive 16, and that's my answer. Right. Go ahead and try to solve both of these on your own. And then what I want you to do is play the video to see how you did. Right. Let's try this one first. Hopefully you noticed that it was negative 4, so we add 4 on both sides. That would cancel this out. But you'll see that I'm left with a negative x, which equals 20 plus 4, which is 24. So now I'm going to put a 1 here, and remember that to get x alone, I'm going to divide both sides by negative 1. I'm left with x equals negative 24. 24 divided by negative 1. Next problem. This one was a hard one because you had to remember, even though you see a minus sign, that's in front of the x. What really is this number? This number is a positive 5. So to get rid of this positive 5, and I think that a lot of students, this is confusing to them, you have to do minus 5 or negative 5. That's what's going to cancel that out. Because really, there's nothing in front of the 5. It was a positive 5. So 10 minus 5 is 5. I'm going to bring down my equal sign. And then you'll see you're left with minus x, which technically is a negative x. And when we see negative x, that means there's a negative 1x. Divide by negative 1. Final answer, x equals negative 5. So go ahead and make sure you rewatch the video if you don't understand. And I hope that helps. Bring in this extra piece of paper tomorrow to show that you worked through the problems.